Hello and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be going over the reasonings for the final 10 songs of my top 100. This is the top 10, so this is the final reasonings video. As always, if you have any questions regarding the format of these reasonings videos, just reference the first reasonings video that I did. Anyways, let's get right into it. So at number 10, we had Climbing by Etherwood. And this song just has beautiful vocals and a beautiful melody that's accompanied very well by by the drums and all the elements in there. So really the reason why I put this track so high is just because that melody and those vocals resonate so well with me. And it all comes together very nicely and it just feels really clean, but overall it's just a really beautiful track with such a simple melody, but that the whole track is built around it, enabling it to kind of build this own world and create such a beautiful atmosphere. So that's number 10, Etherwood, Climbing. Number 9 is Aphasia by Mr. Fiji Ouija. If you don't know what aphasia is, it's basically when you can no longer either express speech or understand speech or both. And that is perfectly created by this track here with the use of the vocal chops, like it's trying to say some sort of message, but it just can't. But really the attention to detail in this track is really breathtaking. There's so many little tidbits and Foley sounds that quite honestly I wouldn't have even thought of to add, but they just do so much to add to an already so powerful atmosphere. And the emotional impact is really why I put it so high, because it just does such a good job expressing that theme of not being able to communicate, of being isolated, of being cut off. And it's just a wonderfully produced track overall, and a very emotional one. So that's number 9, Aphasia by Mr. Fiji Ouija. Number 8 is Crashed by Daughtry. And this is another one, like many of the other rock songs on here, that's a bit of a nostalgia one that I had originally come across many years ago. But like the other ones, the nostalgia stuck with me. Great vocals, and I love the melody. So it's a catchy one, and of course just one that's impactful because of that nostalgia. At number 7, we have Too Late by Rootkit. Like Climbing, it has a beautiful melody. The thing that this track does though is that it creates a ton of tension with both the vocals and the way that the melody kind of opens up. It just makes so much tension, and it kind of reflects the name, Too Late, like you've run out of time. And I think that Rootkit just does a perfect job of displaying that with the track, and it's that kind of tension, that kind of uneasiness, which is what draws me to the track so much. How brilliantly Rootkit is able to portray that, and it has that kind of emotional impact because of that. So that's number 7, Too Late by Rootkit. Number 6, hopefully I pronounced this right. I was gonna pronounce it really wrong the first time, but I think I'll be closer now. Number 6 is Tracks of the Sheep by Chill Pill and Chahaya, I believe. I hope that I didn't butcher that too much. But yeah, that's number 6, Tracks of the Sheep. So the reason why this is so high, which might seem like a bit of a shocker, first of all, beautiful melody. I love the melody. But really the main thing that has it so high is the concept of a conversation between man and God. And I just find it to be such a beautiful kind of conversation that's shown in the lyrics, that I think just does a great job reflecting how that relationship really is. And it's such a beautiful piece. That's really what made it skyrocket so high into the list, is just because of kind of that emotion and that beautiful idea of just a conversation but through music. Number 5 is Let Me Down Slowly by Alec Benjamin. And this one, like many of the other ones, has a beautiful melody, also fantastic vocals from Alec Benjamin. But the main thing that puts this so high is kind of just the desperation behind the vocals, behind the lyrics. I think Alec Benjamin kind of displays that very well, and it really gets across the message that he's wanting to get across with that. And overall, it just works very well. It's very cohesive, it's catchy, but it's also emotional, which is why it's so high. Now to these top top 4. Personally, I consider these top 4 tracks perfect, but I think my system's a little flawed because some are a bit more perfect than others, but it's really kind of the way that I went about these tracks, because I'd say for what they are, they do everything perfectly. As in, not only are there no flaws, but I honestly would say that there's no room for improvement as far as what they were going for. Like, they just nailed it to a T. I guess is kind of my reasoning behind the perfect for these top 4 tracks. So the first one here is One Step Forward by Direct. This is number 4. And beautiful and such a sorrowful melody. This track is so sorrowful and so melancholic overall. A perfect job of demonstrating kind of the emptiness and the despair, but then also the glimpse of hopefulness kind of coming from the title One Step Forward. You know, just looking back at the past and still remaining hopeful for the future, because despite the fact that the melody does kind of have a hopeful feel to it, it is really a sad and emotional melody when you get down to it. And even though the production might seem simplistic, there are so many different little foley's and little pieces of effect that really create that atmosphere to kind of engulf me in the track. And Direct just does a perfect job with that, with just letting it be and letting everything reflect the melody and get that kind of emotion across absolutely flawlessly. So that's why it's so high for me on the list, Direct One Step Forward. Now, for number 3 and number 2, these are actually really close. Like, I'd almost go as far as to say that these two are interchangeable, which is not something that you'd see so high on the list, but these are at like almost the exact same tier because, you know, they're just so good. At number 3 is Stay With Me by Taizé. Now, for those of you guys who haven't heard the entirety of the track, it's based on the agony in the Garden of Gethsemane, and I think agony really is the perfect word for it, because not only does this song kind of maintain tension and a feeling of uneasiness throughout, but it does a little more than that. Without going all out in your face, it really is a terrifying track when you take a good look at it, because the way it's made, it just gives such a feeling of sorrow and despair and hopelessness that I'd argue they perfectly recreated those feelings that I would bet that Jesus was feeling at that garden, because, you know, he was feeling so incredibly worried about the future that was just revealed to him. And even though obviously, thankfully, none of us would have to feel such a deep stress and fear and anxiety, I'd say that as far as music goes, I say Taizé has done the absolute best job that anyone has done, that as far as I'm aware, to recreate that and bring us as close to that as possible. It's just really just the voices and a little bit of other instruments in there, but the melody is so haunting, and making it a slow track was another fantastic stylistic choice to make it very brooding, not necessarily sort of in like an edgy way, but in like a very suspenseful and tense and uneasy way. And I just think that Taizé nailed that perfectly. So that's number 3, Stay With Me by Taizé. Number 2, which I mentioned, is essentially on that same tier, but number 2 is Immortal by Marina and the Diamonds, which the reason why I put it so high is I love the lyricism, and like Stay With Me, it also decides to be a slow track to have a bit more emotional impact. Fantastic vocals, and altogether it works so well to be just an emotionally impactful track with a good message. Marina and the Diamonds nailed this one, by far my favorite work from her. Really just a beautiful track overall. And then finally, the number 1 track, which I revealed in this video. You know, the funny thing is that, like I mentioned, I consider these past 4 tracks to be perfect, and number 2 and number 3 to be on about the same tier, almost exactly. But that said, this track is just miles ahead of those two, which honestly, even I find it to be kind of mind-blowing how these two tracks that I view as essentially perfect and couldn't have done anything better could be blown out of the water in comparison to this number one track. And if I'm being honest, I don't expect myself to ever get a new number one unless this track wears off on me, because it will be so difficult, dare I say impossible, for another track to have such an impact on me as this one does right now, for me to enjoy it and respect it so much as I respect this number one track. So that's why I say the only way that I could get another number one is if this one falls off a bit, but of course you never know, but that's just what I think as of right now. And this number one track is Iridescent by Linkin Park. This is, like many of the other tracks, one that I had known for a few years, so it has the nostalgia factor, but on top of that, it is a beautiful and phenomenal track in its own right. Fantastic progression, phenomenal vocals, and a beautiful melody that with a great message of just letting it go and letting it be. And it really is hard to put into words how deeply touched I have been by this track for so many years, but it just brings back such fantastic melodies, and even without the melodies, it would still be a great track because of all these different choices that make it such a beautiful journey and experience. But of course, when you bring the memories on top of that, that just takes it the whole extra mile and brings it happily to number one. So those were the final reasonings of my top 100. I hope you guys enjoyed. I just wanted to address really quickly the future of the channel, because while some of you guys might think that I might have just came here to, drop the top 100 and, just kind of go quiet for a bit, because obviously I haven't been active on this channel at all. The only two things that have gone on this channel have been this series and the one other video before it. Rest assured, I have actually, right now I have 2 videos already done, and I'm just gonna, I just need to make this video first so that I can upload those 2 afterwards. So I have videos in the queue, and then I have a handful of other ideas that I might decide to go with. So the channel isn't necessarily gonna go quiet after this, especially with all the free time, coming along with summer break. So expect more videos on the channel, but of course they're not going to be all this style. I'm planning on doing some other type of content as well, so hopefully you guys are looking forward to that. But anyways, it was an honor to be able to show to you guys my top 100. I'm very grateful that so many of you guys were able to tune in and kind of get a little taste into the music that I'm very into. So until next time, I'll be seeing you.